Hello, lovelies. Good to see you again. Today, we're going to be looking at a very interesting topic, table tennis. I know you've seen table tennis before. Some of us have even played table tennis, isn't it? Of course. Table tennis is an indoor game played on the tennis table between one or two players on each side of the table. When we say an indoor game, this is not a field event, it's not a track event, which means it's not played on the field, neither is it played on the track. It's an indoor game that involves one player on each side or two players on each side. Now, when a game is played between two players with one on each side, the game is the singles. And when a game is played between four players with two on each side, the game is the doubles, which means table tennis has two categories. The first one is the single, while the other one is the double. Are we ready? Now, a little of table tennis history. Table tennis originated in England about 1890 and was introduced to Nigeria by the British colonial teachers. They were the ones that brought table tennis to Nigeria. Now, in Nigeria, we have a body in charge of table tennis, and that body is called the NTTF. NTTF, which is the National Table Tennis Association of Nigeria. It was formed in 1968 and the headquarters is in Lagos. Next, we're going to be seeing a footage of the game. Now you can see the doubles and the singles. For the doubles, you have four players on it and two players on each side. While for the single, you have two players with just one player on each side. Now let's get to it proper. Now the game begins with a service. You can see somebody making the service from one player to who then play across the net to the other player with a bat. And the ball must be hit with the bat continuously until a player misses his or her return. Then the point is counted and the winner is the first person to get to 21 points as long as the opponent is still below 20 points. Now this is a player making the service, the return again, and of course the other white guy couldn't give a good return and the point was counted for the black guy. Now again the white guy has made the service and the black guy returned and the white guy couldn't make a return again. So it's just the service play across the net and the ball must get to the table of the other opponent and the return must continue. Whoever fails to return appropriately loses that round and the opponent gets the point. So you can see it's a very interesting game, the game of table tennis. Remember, the first to get to 21 points wins the game as long as the opponent is below 20. Now, before you get to 21 points, you will be on 20. And as long as you remain on 20, your opponents don't get to meet you on 20, you can cross over to 21. But if your opponent comes to meet you at 20, we go for a round called the half game because that will now be in the state where they call it deuce. All right. Next, we're going to be looking at the equipment used in the game of table tennis. And here we have about 5 major equipment. The first one is the table itself. The table itself is the very important one. Without the table, there is no table tennis. And the second one is the bats. The bat is what the players they hold to hit the table tennis. Remember, you don't use your hand. You must hit the table tennis with the bat. Now, the third one is the tennis ball itself. The ball. It's also called an egg. The ball is also called what? Egg. And of course, we also have the net. The net splits the table into two equal halves such that each opponent knows his or her jurisdiction. And of course, the last on the equipment, you have the kit. You see the young boy there, more like the youngest table tennis in Africa, putting on a kit, a green and black stripes, and of course, black shorts on for recognition. We are going to be looking at the basic skills of the table tennis, and there are three basic skills of the table tennis. The first one is the grip. The grip. The grip here talks more of how you hold your bat. The second is the service. Second is the service. And lastly, we have the strokes. We have the strokes, the way you strike the ball. Now we come back to the service. Now the service can be splitted into three types. We have the non-spin service, then we have the top spin service, then we have the bottom spin service. Like I said, we have three types of service. We have the non-spin service, the top spin service, and the bottom spin service. Now also, we come to the strokes. We have four major types of strokes. We have the forehand stroke or drive. We have the half volley stroke. We have the smash. I'm sure you guys like that, right? We have the smash stroke. And lastly, we have the forehand or the backhand chop. It's a form of stroke where you use your forehand or backhand to chop the ball. Those are the major four strokes that we have when it comes to the basic skills of table tennis. So we have three types of services, and also we have four types of strokes. Now the three basic skills are the grip, the service, which is splitted into three, and the strokes, which is splitted into four. Now remember, the game is continued with stroke. A stroke is when a player strikes the ball. That is what you mean when you say a stroke. And a service, when you say service, what do you really mean? A player holds the ball or egg in his or her palm, throws it up a bit, and strikes with the surface of the bat. The ball must first land in the server's court, then jump over the nets to the other court. That is a service. Next, we have the officials, the game officials. Officials in table tennis, who are those that oversee the game. Now, we have two officials, and they are the umpire, and the second person is the scorer. The umpire, and what's the second person? Good, the scorer. Now, what's the job of the umpire? First, the umpire oversees the game. That's the first job. Second job, determines good and bad service. And services have to follow the rule, like we explained about a service, a player holding the ball or egg in his or her hand, palm, throwing it up a bit and striking with the surface. And the egg must hit his court before going to the opponent's court. Now, when this doesn't happen, it is seen as a bad service, and the umpire should be the one to spot that. Then we have even returns. Returns must be done appropriately. Otherwise, it's a bad return. Also, counting of scores is done by the umpire. Enforcing rule is done by the umpire. Making final decisions about games is still done by the umpire, just like the referees in football. Now, coming to the second official, we have the scorer. Now, just as the name goes, the scorer keeps record of players during games and matches as well. The scorer does. Next, we are going to be looking at rules of the game. While we are looking at the rules, we are going to be carrying the game along so we understand what we are talking about. The first rule says a player loses a point if he or she moves the playing surface while playing. You see how they are playing? They are not allowed to touch the table or shake the table at all. The second rule states the doubles game is played between four players, two on each side. If it were to be the double, we'll be having two on each side, but this is a single. That's why you have one on each side. Now, the next rule says the single game is played between two opponents, one on each side. Like you can see now, they are just one on each side, playing against each other. They can't be double because it's a single. If it was a double, two will be on each side. Then we have the other one. A player loses a point if his or her free hand touches the playing surface while playing. If one of these players touches the board now, they'll lose a point automatically. That means giving a point to the opponent so they don't get to touch the ball, no matter how interesting it is. They have the player loses a point also if failed to make a successful service or return stroke. Like you see, as you see both of them, they are jumping up and down, try to ensure that they make good service, try to ensure that they return the ball. You see the way they are rushing, stamping their feet on the floor to ensure that they return the ball and all of that. And the next rule says a game winner is the first to have 21 points, provided the opponent still has less than 20 points. As long as the opponent is less than 20 points and you cross the 20 points, you become the winner. It's such an interesting game of table tennis. I wish we can continue, but we have other things to do, I guess. So you just enjoy the game while I say bye to you. See you next week.
To put a long serve, but with a player like this, you can't do that. Yes, that's time out. Chad 11 is serving now.
He's absolutely clubbing this ball.
Oh, lucky for Arimo.